There are wounds that never bleed, pains that leave no trace on the skin, but pierce the soul like invisible blades. And there are prisons so silent, so cleverly disguised as pleasure, that they feel like freedom. Have you felt it? That creeping guilt after a touch. That hollow ache no one else can see. But it grows inside you each time you try to give yourself to someone. Maybe you've told yourself it's just desire, just human need. But what if I told you that what you call desire is actually a battlefield, that every sexual encounter outside divine purpose is a spiritual transaction, a silent offering, a leak in your spiritual authority? No one ever told you this. No one explained why, after certain people, you feel drained, why your dreams faded, why your clarity blurred, why your focus cracked, your prayer life scattered, your inner peace hijacked. You try to reconnect with God, but something is missing. You try to fast, to worship, to recite your affirmations, but your soul feels distracted, as if heaven became faint and distant. The truth is, someone is siphoning your spirit, and the doorway is sex. Not sacred, covenantal, purposeful sex, but sex outside of alignment. Sex that feels good, but costs everything. You're not just giving your body, you're opening gates, you're signing soul contracts without words, and the price is your identity. But today, something will break. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will understand why certain people only entered your life to sabotage you. You'll finally see the hidden reason behind your spiritual decline. You'll understand why the fire that once burned inside you has faded, and more importantly, how to reignite it. What I'll show you is not just insight, it's spiritual survival. A blueprint for those who know they've been chosen, yet feel like something has hijacked their calling in silence. And I don't speak from theory, I speak from scars. I've been there. I've given myself away, thinking it was love, only to wake up emptier. I confused affection with spiritual alignment. I ignored the inner warning signs and found myself distant from God. I know what it feels like to try and pray through a fog, to fast and feel nothing, to beg for clarity while sinking into confusion. But I also know what it means to be restored, to be washed clean, to reclaim what was lost. And if I found my way back, so can you. This is not a video. This is a spiritual intervention. If this message is reaching into you deeper than words, it's because your spirit recognizes this frequency. And if that's true for you, I want you to comment below. I want to be whole again. Not for me, not for validation, but for your soul, for your future, for the calling you carry. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because what comes next isn't just content, it's a call to action. You weren't made to blend in. You were chosen to stand out, because the chosen were never meant to be easy prey. They were meant to be holy weapons, and now that you've begun to see that it was never just about sex, it was always about spiritual territory, we must go deeper, because what's being stolen from you is something you haven't even fully seen yet. Not all loss comes in the form of pain. Some of the most devastating exchanges happen in silence, masked as intimacy. You give yourself, and in return something is taken, but you don't notice it immediately, because the currency is not physical, it's spiritual. There's a mystery few dare to name. Every sexual act is not just an action, it's an altar. And altars always demand a sacrifice. In moments of passion, something deeper than flesh is offered. Something sacred, often, unknowingly, is placed into the hands of another. Your essence, your light, your spiritual blueprint. And when that offering is made outside the realm of divine alignment, the exchange becomes corrupted. Instead of union, it becomes a transaction. And instead of multiplication, it births fragmentation. That's why you began to feel disoriented after certain encounters. Why your sense of direction collapsed. Why your dreams stopped speaking to you. Because every act outside of purpose weakens the signal between you and heaven. It's not just about guilt, it's about disconnect. You were designed to be a vessel of divine intelligence. Your energy was meant to build temples, not feed shadows. But when your body becomes an open gate without discernment, your spirit begins to leak. You start waking up tired, not just physically, but soul tired. You feel heavy, confused, restless. You begin to crave what breaks you. And worst of all, you lose your sensitivity to the holy. It's not because God abandoned you. It's because too many voices now echo inside you. Too many fingerprints on your soul. Too many attachments pulling your energy in directions God never sent you. This is why some chosen ones fall into cycles of self-sabotage. Why no matter how much they pray, something still feels off. Why worship becomes mechanical. Why fasting loses its edge. It's not rebellion, it's residue. A soul covered in the leftovers of other people's burdens, traumas, and spiritual DNA. You didn't just sleep with a person. You merged with their atmosphere, and atmospheres have weight. If they carried confusion, now you wrestle with indecision. If they carried shame, now you struggle with self-worth. If they were fragmented, now your mind feels scattered, and you wonder why your life feels like a storm with no eye. Because somewhere in the dark there was a silent exchange, your essence for their presence. But here's the revelation. What was taken can be restored. What was lost can be recovered. But first, you must stop the bleeding. You must close the altar. And to do that, you need to recognize the power you hold and how sacred you truly are. You thought it was over. The call stopped. The contact ended. You deleted the photos, burned the notes, threw away the memories. And yet, in the quietest moments, they're still there. Their voice echoes in your spirit when you try to pray. Their energy lingers in your atmosphere when you attempt to worship. Their shadow shows up in your dreams, even when your heart begs for peace. This is not obsession. This is not weakness. This is a soul tie. Because what connected you wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. And spiritual bonds do not break with time. They must be severed with revelation. A soul tie is a cord, invisible but alive. It is a spiritual umbilical, feeding your emotions, draining your discernment, fogging your clarity. And while the body may have moved on, the soul remains entangled. You wonder why new relationships feel off, why you struggle to trust again, why your spirit feels divided, like something in you is still locked in a memory you cannot access but cannot escape. It's because your soul is not fully here. Part of you is still there in a moment that left you marked. And the dangerous part, many soul ties are disguised as love but fueled by trauma. You weren't drawn to them because they were whole. You were drawn because your wounds spoke the same language. They needed validation. You needed to be needed. They feared abandonment. You feared being forgotten. So your bond wasn't built on purpose. It was built on pain. And pain, when bonded, becomes addiction. You didn't just crave them. You craved what you felt in their presence, even if it was breaking you. Because brokenness becomes familiar. And what's familiar often feels like home, even when it's prison. But here's the truth the enemy doesn't want you to realize. Your soul was never designed to be bound. You were born to be connected, but never chained. There is a difference between covenant and captivity. God unites with purpose. Hell entangles with patterns, and until that tie is broken, you'll keep reliving the same emotional seasons. Different faces, same warfare, different names, same soul damage, because the residue remains. And where there is residue, there is restriction, but not anymore. The moment you name the tie, you begin to nullify its power. The moment you stop romanticizing the past and start recognizing the poison, you begin to sever the cord. This is why some deliverances feel incomplete, because the body was cleansed, but the soul was still in covenant. And now, chosen one, you are being called not just to let go, but to cut, with revelation, with repentance, with renunciation. Because your soul cannot carry divine destiny while entangled in demonic memory. It's time to reclaim every piece of yourself you left behind, every fragment you handed over out of desperation, every whisper of your identity that was swallowed by someone who never valued the sacredness of your essence. This is not just healing, this is retrieval. You are not just moving on, you are taking back territory. There are moments when you can feel it, not just in your body but in your very essence. A strange weariness, a draining stillness, a sudden fog over your clarity, your energy, your spiritual fire. And it often follows one thing: the moment you gave yourself to someone who was never aligned with your calling, the moment you allowed a piece of your sacred to be handled by hands that weren't sanctified, the moment of sexual compromise. What no one tells you is this: your body is not just flesh, it is a vessel. And your sexual energy is not just desire, it is divine power. Power that was never meant to be traded lightly. Power that, once misdirected, begins to leak out of you like water through cracked stone. This is why, after the pleasure fades, a strange heaviness often takes its place. It's not guilt, it's not shame, it's spiritual depletion, because something in you knows. Something sacred was tampered with. Not because you're dirty, not because you're weak, but because you're chosen. And chosen vessels cannot afford to be carelessly poured into. When your calling is great, your purity becomes a target, not just in action, but in energy. Because the enemy knows what many still don't: that sex is not just physical, it is a transaction, an exchange of essence, a merging of atmospheres. And when your atmosphere has been consecrated by silence, by prayer, by spiritual fire, its very texture becomes incompatible with the energies of those not walking the same path. So what happens when you join with them anyway? You leak. Your discernment dulls, your fire dims, not because God left you, but because you stepped outside of the spiritual atmosphere that preserves your strength. It's like unplugging a lamp from its source. It still exists, but it can no longer shine. This is why you felt the weight afterward, why you didn't feel closer, but more distant, from yourself, from God, from clarity. Because you weren't made to be available to everything. You were designed for sacred alignment, for intimacy that sharpens, not silences, for touch that activates, not drains, for connection that mirrors covenant, not chaos. And when you settle for less, your spirit mourns it, even if your body doesn't understand it yet. But hear me, your sensitivity is not a curse. It's confirmation. You're not too emotional, you're spiritually aware. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. And part of that preparation is learning what costs you more than it gives you, who subtracts more than they add, what moments feed the flesh but starve the soul. So if you've been leaking in your focus, in your strength, in your consistency, trace it back. Look not just at what you did, but who you allowed access to the most sacred parts of you, not to shame yourself, but to reclaim yourself, to close the leaks, to sanctify again the space of your soul, because nothing of lasting power can be carried in a vessel that's slowly breaking from within. And here's something few are ready to admit. Many of the delays, the confusion, the emotional fog you're battling isn't random. It's residue, the lingering energy of connections that never belonged to your future. And they're still whispering, still pulling, still leaving fragments in your energy field. But once you recognize it, you can renounce it. You can break it. You can be free. You do not have to live leaking. You do not have to normalize spiritual exhaustion. You do not have to carry soul fatigue as if it's your identity. You can return, realign, and receive again the fullness of your fire. And if these words echo something you've felt deep inside but never knew how to name, I want you to comment below just one number, 44. Not for performance, but as your silent signal. Your way of saying, I felt this, and I'm sealing the leaks. Holiness is not a costume you wear. It is a weight you carry. It is not about perfection. It is about preservation. When you are chosen, the path marked for you is not paved in comfort, applause, or worldly ease. It is carved in silence, in solitude, in separation. Because everything around you will try to convince you to blend in, to loosen your standards, to let your guard down, even if just for a moment. But you know what that moment costs you. You've paid it before, and you know how long it takes. To recover what one compromise can dismantle in seconds, to be holy is to bleed in secret for a fire the world can't see. It is to be mocked for what you protect, laughed at for what you abstain from, misunderstood for the purity you guard with trembling hands. People think you're rigid, religious, extreme, but they don't see the warfare. They don't feel the invisible tugs trying to pull you back into the patterns you bled to escape. You've walked away from things most would never have the courage to release. You've said no when everything in your flesh screamed yes. You've stayed when leaving felt easier. You've obeyed when silence from heaven felt unbearable. And for that, heaven honors you. But even in your obedience, you still feel it. The weight, the ache of isolation, the temptation to give in just a little, to taste what you know will poison you, to touch what you know will stain you. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. You ache, you desire, you long, and in that longing the enemy whispers, it's not that serious. Everyone else is doing it. God will forgive you. But you must remember, you're not everyone else. You carry something they don't. And what you carry makes you dangerous, because a holy vessel is a weapon against hell. And that is why the pressure on your life is heavier, why your battles are more intense, why your process feels longer. You are not just surviving. You are being shaped for sacred things. Every time you say no to what wants to defile you, you're saying yes to what heaven is preparing to entrust to you. Every boundary you protect sharpens your authority. Every tear you cry in private waters the roots of the mission you were born to fulfill. Holiness is not absence of desire. It is mastery of desire. It is remembering who you are when the world offers you forgetfulness wrapped in pleasure. To be holy is to carry memory, not of who you were, but of who you're becoming. So if the path has felt narrow, it's because it is. If the price has felt high, it's because the weight of your assignment is rare. God doesn't train warriors in comfort. He refines them in consecration. He pulls them away not to punish, but to purify. And if you've been feeling the cost lately, the distance, the ache, the burning separation from everything and everyone that doesn't align, know this. You are not being rejected. You are being reserved. The anointing cannot rest where compromise lives, and the glory cannot dwell where mixture remains. So stand firm, stay hidden, remain consecrated, because when the time comes, and it is coming, you will be revealed. And everything you protected in silence will shout on your behalf. There is something about you that hell cannot ignore. It's not just your gifts. It's not just your mind. It's not even your prayers. It's your seed, the potential inside you to reproduce what heaven has planted. The enemy doesn't just attack who you are. He attacks what you're called to carry. And for the chosen ones, that means more than biological children. Your seed is your assignment, your ideas, your calling, your spiritual legacy, your light. And more than anything, your purity is the soil where that seed takes root. This is why the war over your body has been relentless. This is why sexual warfare has hunted you in dreams, in temptation, in weakness. Because the enemy knows if he can defile the soil, he can corrupt the harvest. It's not just about what you do. It's about what you're destined to birth. Your purity is not just a moral preference. It is a shield, a spiritual membrane that protects the divine codes inside you. The visions, the revelations, the anointing, the sound, the oil. And when that shield is compromised, what was once sharp becomes dull. What once flowed becomes blocked. What once felt aligned begins to drift. That is why chosen vessels often feel the most intense pull toward compromise, because their seed is rare. Their womb is spiritual. Their capacity to release transformation is unlike others. And if that purity is broken, that seed may be delayed, distorted, or even aborted. But here is the sacred mystery. Even when you've fallen, even when you've compromised, even when the garden was invaded, the seed was never fully destroyed. Why? Because what God plants cannot be erased by human error. It can be delayed, it can be hidden, but it cannot be deleted. That's why you feel this call. Back to alignment. Why your spirit grieves after compromise. Why you can no longer enjoy what others celebrate. Because the seed is still inside you, and it's ready to grow again. But for it to grow, the soil must be sanctified. You must return to purity, not as a punishment, but as a protection, as a preparation. Because what you're called to carry cannot survive in contaminated soil. Your destiny requires cleansing, boundaries, silence, and stillness. The enemy fears what's about to come out of you. That's why he keeps sending distractions shaped like pleasure, delays dressed like partners, attachments that look like opportunities. But now your eyes are opening. Your discernment is sharpening, and you're remembering who you are, a chosen vessel, a sacred carrier of divine codes, a guardian of spiritual legacy. The war has always been about what you carry, and now you must protect it with your life, because what's coming through you will change everything. There comes a moment in the life of every chosen one when they realize they are not just living their own story. They are standing at the gates of something greater. They are gatekeepers, protectors of spiritual territory that others cannot see. You are not just here to survive. You were sent to guard atmospheres, to shift the air, to silence the noise, to close doors that your bloodline left open, and to open doors that no one else had the key to. That's why your battles felt ancestral. That's why your dreams revealed things older than your memory. That's why your atmosphere has always felt sensitive, heavy in the wrong rooms, activated in the right ones, because your presence is an authority in the spirit. Even when your mouth is silent, you carry discernment that breaks cycles. You carry fire that intimidates darkness without saying a word. And for that reason, hell cannot leave you alone. Because gatekeepers are not born, they are refined in fire. They are trained through pain, isolation, rejection, temptation. They are forged in the tension between obedience and desire, silence and revelation, war and worship. That's why the spiritual attacks on your body, your sexuality, your purity, your identity have never been casual. They've been strategic, designed to distract you from the gates you are meant to guard. If the enemy can pull you into personal chaos, he can keep you from standing in your rightful post. But you're waking up now. You are realizing that your decisions don't just affect you, they ripple through generations. That when you say no to temptation, you're closing doors for your children's children. That when you guard your purity, you are protecting future assignments, future ministries, future legacies. That when you walk away from what feels good but corrupts your calling, heaven takes note, and new gates are unlocked. Your body is a temple, yes, but your atmosphere is a gate, a spiritual access point. What you allow in multiplies. What you refuse withers. And that's why you can no longer afford to entertain what pulls you out of alignment. You are too critical to the kingdom to be casual with your energy, too rare to be reckless, too chosen to be careless. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it is assignment. You feel too much because you are trusted with too much. You see too deep because your spirit was trained to recognize what others ignore. So from this moment on, walk as one who guards sacred territory. Watch your gates, your eyes, your ears, your body, your atmosphere. Not out of fear, but out of honor. Out of recognition that what you carry is costly, and it deserves to be treated as holy. Because when you protect the gates, you protect the move of God within you. And when the move of God flows through you, it changes everything around you. You are not just chosen. You are assigned. You are positioned. You are the guardian of the gates. You've walked through silence. You've wrestled in the shadows. You've questioned the ache that never leaves, and now you understand why. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to pierce through. Every attack on your soul, every strange pull back to old patterns, every temptation that almost seduced you into sleep again. It was never random. It was war, a war for your identity, a war for your light, a war for your seed. And now, standing at the edge of everything you once feared, you finally see it. You are not broken. You are marked. You are not forgotten. You are hidden. You are not too late. You are being timed for release. Your purity is not weakness. It is weaponry. Your silence is not punishment. It is preparation. Your loneliness is not lack. It is refining, because heaven never reveals what it has not first consecrated, and you, chosen one, have been in consecration. Now the voice within grows louder than the noise outside. The fire within burns hotter than the illusions of pleasure. The call to rise, to return, to reclaim, becomes impossible to ignore. So what now? Now, you walk. You walk with reverence, with clarity. With eyes that no longer sleep, you walk with scars that no longer bleed but speak. You walk with the awareness that you were chosen, not for comfort, but for impact. And every day from this moment forward, you'll feel it. In the way you protect your body, in the way you guard your atmosphere, in the way you refuse to leak. One more drop of light into the wrong hands. You are different, and now you know why. The return has begun. The soil is healing. The seed is waking. And the next time the enemy comes to tempt you with what once felt sweet, you will look it in the face and whisper, I remember who I am now. You are not going back. You are not fading out. You are not dimming your fire. To be loved by those who fear your flame, you are rising. So write it down, say it aloud, seal it in spirit. I am reclaiming everything they tried to bury, not for revenge, not for applause, but for alignment, for purity, for purpose. This is not the end. This is the turning of the page. We will meet again, but in the next awakening. Until then, protect the seed.